So, I don't know which camera to look at. Okay. Welcome back. I don't know where to look. So we're like, welcome back. Welcome back to Gene Therapy.
I'm just like, oh hey.
Yeah.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So you look at that one though.
Yeah, sorry. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of a brand new season of Gene Therapy.
Super new. So new.
Weird and new and odd.
Cool and good.
It's good. So this is the podcast where band members of Navier Gene, which is Eddi,
Hello.
Dowd,
Hello.
and Coog,
Hey.
and me, I'm Jenny, hello. We sit down and we talk about music and stuff and whatever we're up to and things that we want to. But this is a brand new format, actually. One thing to note is that you might be listening to this and not watching it because the podcast is actually now available on your hopefully favourite streaming service, which is just audio. So hello, audio listeners. And we'll just do the obligatory hello, YouTube people. We do have cameras set up in the room. So if you are listening on audio, you can head over to our YouTube, which is just search Navier Gene. And you can watch it all in full HD, our beautiful faces. But if you're watching it on YouTube, you can also now switch over to your favourite streaming service and actually just listen to us.
Fancy that.
Pretty cool, innit?
We had a lot of requests. I'm
I
unsure.
think it's a great move. I appreciate people actually putting the feedback in from like the last season, to be fair. I think that's awesome.
Oh, we're definitely calling it season now as well.
Season 2.
But I genuinely think that's the way people are moving into the wild. Yeah. People like seasons.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All we need now is a subscription fee and we'll be set.
Yeah, if you want us to set up a Patreon, just let us know and we will.
I thought it'd be OnlyFans for me.
I think I'm your only fan.
True.
I'm the best fan.
And then if you want to support us in any other way, then you can find us on Instagram, and that is at Navier Gene, which is just the band profile. But we will actually have a Twitter, which will be dedicated purely for the podcast. And that will be something like Gene Therapy Podcast, but we haven't made it yet, so we don't know. But I'm sure you'll find it in the description, the dingly doops that are around whatever you're listening to or watching us on, essentially. So, yeah. And then we also still have our email address, which no one uses, but might as well shout it out, which is genetherapypod@gmail.com. So if you have any feedback or topics or questions or anything that you want to ask us, then you can do that via emails. The other thing to mention, and the reason why this is being called Season 2, is because we are changing format slightly. So in previous episodes, we've been incredibly self-indulgent.
Agreed.
So generally, the podcasts have just been led by what's happening with the band and like music. Me and Eddi jumped on a podcast, the last podcast that was out before this one, on our own, and asked for feedback from people who watch the podcast. The majority of feedback was...
Stop it. We don't want to hear anything.
Just don't you dare think of starting the season 2.
Where's Dowd and Go for a start?
Yeah.
And also don't even try to do a season 2. So to the haters,
we're back.
unlucky sweetness.
Back by unpopular demand.
Yes. You didn't ask for it, we didn't want to do it, but we're here, damn it.
Doing it anyway.
From now on, this is a podcast and about its therapy for musicians, and that's the reason why we've carried on with the Gene Therapy name, is that it is essentially talking about things that are happening in the music industry or to do with music, where we can sit and have a rant or praise or whatever we want to do about what's happening in music or our experiences as creatives working in the music industry, that kind of thing. So that's now going to be the thing. So if you didn't have something to say before, we imagine there'll be lots of things that we can discuss off this podcast. So get involved with the conversation in whichever way that you wish to get involved in the conversation. But yeah, starting today, big new fresh start. Season 2, baby.
Oh boy.
Careful, because those seats are broken.
I did no preparation. I'm probably going to fall off my chair.
You don't even shit your booty anymore.
Oh.
No,
So we'll see. Well, if it gets the
Life
viewers,
finds a way.
if it gets the viewers up,
Yeah.
I'll do what I have to.
We're gonna have to do audio descriptions of that there for the listeners who were just listening through.
Man with brown hair shakes booty regularly. Extended period of time.
That is the greatest subtitle to describe my life, I think.
So he'll do his booty shaking.
So if you want to support us in any way, the best way to support us now we're on streaming services is actually to subscribe. And if you have the option, I know that things like Spotify don't necessarily have an option yet, but rate and review. And I've heard that Apple Podcasts is a really good one to rate and review. And apparently that shows our podcast to new listeners. And that's kind of, now it's not the self-satisfactory talking about the band kind of stuff. Hopefully there'll be people who don't know the band, but were interested in listening to three guys and a gal who were friends in the music industry.
Thereabouts.
Chatting. Thereabouts what?
Friends.
Wow. So this week in music, Billie Eilish, for those who aren't aware, has taken elements of her normal attire off her clothing to pose for a more mature Vogue shoot when she was on the cover of Vogue. I think it was UK Vogue. Don't quote me on that though. But what we're interested in actually was the fact that she has been hitting back at an article that accused her of selling out because of the Vogue cover shoot. And this relates to her essentially changing her look and going against what some are saying is vowing to never take her clothes off for publicity. But what I'd like to think that is that she's now not a minor. So,
Absolutely.
you know, she can do what she wants.
Yeah. Oh my God. 100,000,000%. I don't know why this is an issue on any front at all. Why people are even kicking up a fuss about this, because she has her own autonomy. She is clearly established over the course of her career. She is a capable, creative person in the industry, and obviously the stance that she took early on was about defying the idea of sexualizing her. And just because she did a photo shoot doesn't imply for a second that she still doesn't take that stance. It's okay to change your mind, especially when you're a creative person.
That's exactly it.
Don't let one white guy dictate the conversation on this by any means. But
Let a second white guy.
yeah, or at least
There's two other white
or
men.
at least a white girl just have something to say
I think
about
on a
it.
simpler level as well, that people just expect artists and creators to just do the same thing over and over again. And even if we're talking about how she presents herself, like musically as well, like if she changed her sound and that was to be seen as selling out, that wouldn't be selling out. It's just maturing and changing how you are as an artist.
But that naturally happens to
Exactly.
everybody. The amount of like things that have changed on myself personally over the years. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, for her, it's problem is it's public eye, but you know, everybody's going through changes. You know what I mean? And always has done and always will do. It's just, I think it's pretty, it's just media again though, isn't it? It's always media,
It's
but
always
then media
media,
jump
yeah.
on these like throwing out certain titles and stuff, people seem to grab onto and go sell out.
Yeah, it's very
Like-
tabloid buzz word, isn't it? Catchphrase.
Every
Just,
time, and it's real frustrating. You know, it's not just her; it's loads of different things in it. But you know, and loads of different artists over the years. You know, and it's particularly female artists, obviously, especially when it comes to like clothing and image and look and style and all that kind of stuff.
you'd hope at this point, when Billie is far from the first person to do this, that it'd be old hat. This has been
Happened
done.
again.
Yeah. Oh no! Like young, talented woman in the industry.
Almost expected, almost.
Yeah, but I mean, it shouldn't be expected because who cares at this point? Nobody should care at this point. But the fact that people are kicking up for, oh no, it's Vogue, but then they also forget, well, isn't Vogue meant to be like a fashion magazine and like a lifestyle magazine? And her whole thing, even though she was wearing baggy clothes to kind of cover up her body, she was still doing it with like Gucci and Dolce & Gabbana clothing and all these different like high
icon anyway.
exactly. So it's really the clothing that she's wearing is completely irrelevant to the point of anything that she's supposed to be doing. But if anybody wants to have any feedback, I suppose it depends on what she does musically moving forwards.
I mean, at the same time, though, everything that I've seen in people post has been pretty positive. Just like, good Billie, nice one.
Oh yeah, oh
You
my
know
god.
what I mean?
This is a thing because I think there's a massive culture online, and she is very much an artist of the social media age. And there isn't that many artists that have grown up. Like even Miley Cyrus has changed from Hannah Montana era over. It coincided not with some social media, but it was more like Facebook was around, but it wasn't as intense as it is now. And Billie Eilish has her main fan base is people who have grown up on social media rather than
millennials.
Yeah, well, no, it's Gen Zers.
Well, Gen Z is
Yeah.
We're millennials. We're millennials. I'm sorry about
I'm
that.
not. I'm a millennial.
Oh,
But don't get me into
oh
that.
God. Okay.
I honestly always thought Billie Eilish would just wore baggy clothes because her music's kind of like sleepy, fucking nappy, and she's just like always in her pajamas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the artwork, wasn't it?
It's like she's too. I always saw it as just too cool to go with the grain of what general female artists do, and it's not necessarily what female artists choose to do. I mean, like we look at certain things with female artists. Often they have this. If they've been a child star or a teenage star, they always have this really typical of it growing of age and suddenly showing off the fact that you've got tits thing and like all this, and it's fine, and I'm all about it because I like the idea of women earning their sexuality, but it's quite common. Like you look at pretty much everything, pretty much every woman, doesn't generally happen with guys, but every woman will have this transition of adulthood, and that is her transition of adulthood. But I always didn't really feel like she was dressing the way she dressed because she was a child. It felt like she dressed in the way she dressed because she's too cool to like go with what everyone else was doing. She's even though I know she's not an indie artist in the way that she's a bedroom artist in the way that she recorded tracks with her brother in her bedroom. And she's always been it feels like she's been able to define her own trend anywhere. So it felt like when she did the Vogue thing that it was her choice, that she had decided that around her 19th birthday, hella, this is me, and like screw all the people.
Who is mad though, right? Because surely her fans don't care, and like you said, are like, oh well, good on you. But then all the guys that generally wanted to see this kid naked anyway are now getting what they want. So why would you be mad?
The tea, Eddie, the tea.
Do you know what I mean?
It feels like the pushback is old.
Traditionalist.
Well, I mean, if you could even call it that, but like old hats, old journalists. She's not the first person to do it. She's certainly not going to be the last person to do it. And
keep on rocking, Billie.
Absolutely.
What comes to mind for me was that when it happened with Miley Cyrus, it was obviously there's other factors within that, but in the end, Miley Cyrus has just become completely bigger than she could ever be.
Miley Cyrus is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, like, she went for a big thing of that, didn't she? And then look where she is now. But the whole thing, this whole thing is just good news for her anyway. No matter how it's portrayed and how it's been seen.
And there's this. I mean, for people that may or may not be aware, but there's I suppose it's an old adage at this point, but any press is good press. It doesn't matter if people are slating you. It just means, quite frankly, you've upset some people, but guess what? In upsetting some people, you've also potentially empowered or inspired some other people. And because we live in this social media age as well, there's going to be tons of people who have grown up with Billie, who are at the same age as Billie, and are seeing this young, strong-willed, creatively minded individual do something off her own back for herself, and they're going to be empowered by that, and that's ultimately the big thing that should be taken away from this. Yeah,
I think the as long as you're not harming anyone, then realistically, like the best and biggest movements that change the world are the ones that generally will offend the people in the wrong boat. And I think
now then, Metallica, they're sold out, man.
To finish us off, the Enemy article that I was reading about this, I think she makes a really good point, the lady who wrote this article, that the decisions when you're a minor are made for you, and it's those kind of like school skirts mustn't be too short or else you'll distract the boys thing, and that Billie went to lengths because she had to in order to avoid that. And unfortunately, because the world is a perverted and fucked up place, they hounded her when they got sneak peek photos of the fact that she was wearing a tank top with some cleavage, and they got photos of her body without her consent, and even though she went to extreme lengths to not share that. But then as soon as with her consent through this article, she is now showing her body, she basically has blown it up, and she's taken control of the narrative. She's gone, you've got those photos without my consent, so here's some photos with my consent in the way that I want to be portrayed.
Consent is key, people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, I didn't see it, but she released that small video, didn't she?
It was a part of a tour.
Yeah. Wasn't that like also topical to this?
It was great. Yeah. So it was, I think, as I don't have it in front of me, so like, don't quote me on this, but what she did was, at the beginning of a performance or a tour, she had this video playing that was a monologue style thing, where she was basically saying, fuck you for sexualizing my body, because it's my body. You'll have to do your research, unfortunately, because I don't know it off by heart. But it was a very empowered message from, I think she was like 17, 18 at the time, from a teenager saying basically fuck you media for doing this. And then she came out to, I think she took a top off on stage, like with a bra or a tank top or something, but she did that in front of fans, like she did that in a controlled setting. I might be making that up. But I think that was that.
And on top of that as well, you can't sell out if you've already fucking sold fucking as much as you can possibly sell. What is she selling out to?
That's it. What at that point, when you are literally selling millions of albums, you're streaming millions of, like, across all platforms. Selling out hypothetically no longer exists if selling out is even a thing, quote unquote. It's also none of your business, because that's my business. And I think ultimately what this whole thing is a big middle finger to the paparazzi who have enabled trying to sexualize a minor in the first place. Like what she said, exactly what you said about the idea of the monologue video. Just don't sexualize minors. Don't be that person.
Exactly.
Go on, lass.
Go on, Billy. We love you.
I'm not a massive fan of music, but you keep going.
Oh, I like
I
them.
don't know,
Yeah.
It's pretty good to sleep.
Burst lights.
Maybe that's what you want.
Yeah. Vibes though, isn't it? Lo-fi.
Like fucking hypnosis.
Yeah.
Fucking,
What, making you all fall asleep?
yeah.
Fair.
And then just cut all our words off in our sleep, and then we're done.
Perfect.
Exactly.
That is the feminist, like,
that's how I understand it.
Yeah, I've heard that's the manifesto.
Did you not know that was the thing?
No.
Yeah.
Basically, on this podcast, I talk a lot in the hopes that you'll all fall asleep.
And then cut off our knackers.
Yeah.
To find it first.
The second article, and the point that I was really interested in, which you had brought up to me, Coog, today, which was Willow Smith brings back Jada Smith's metal band for Mother's Day, and her metal band was called Wicked Wisdom.
Yes.
And on Mother's Day, paid homage to Wicked Wisdom, and she did it as a surprise for her mother, as far as I'm aware. And she performed the track "Bleed All Over Me," and she said about her mother that she had gone on tour with her mum and her band while she was 3 or 4, and that her mum is unapologetically badass, which I thought was really cool. And what I thought was really interesting is that I didn't even know that Jaden Smith was even in a metal band. So I was like, oh, shit, this is fucking cool.
I mean, there's a difference between Jaden Smith and Jada Pinkett, though. We do need to clarify that as well.
What's that?
Because Jaden Smith is Jada's son. So that's important.
Jada, not Jaden.
Jada Pinkett. Jada Pinkett used to be in a metal band a number of years ago called Wicked Wisdom, and I became aware of them playing like Download Festival. It might have been about 10 years ago, maybe a few more than that. Yeah. But it was just after, obviously, Jada had done being in the Matrix and stuff, because obviously she was known as being an actress, and I thought it was really cool, like a whole black metal band fronted by a black female, super cool. Willow, obviously being a child, going on tour, seeing this stuff from the sidelines, like literally watching her mum like side stage, like being on stage, rocking out and stuff. Because obviously,
so cool.
How cool.
Have you
So
actually
cool.
seen the performance yet?
No, we haven't seen it.
It's sick.
Well, I said we haven't
She's
seen it.
amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
But even the full band are just like,
Yeah,
man,
they are
still going at it.
Oh god,
Like,
yeah, because I do
amazing.
think it's the original lineup as well. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It's literally the original band, but then with Willow like up front.
Yeah,
It's like, honestly,
yeah, absolutely.
she's playing as well.
Yeah,
So
it's
if we
so
wanna,
cool.
If
so
you want to
cool.
watch it, it's so like I've kind of mentioned it, but just to reiterate, it's on the Facebook Watch series of Red Table Talk, and it's hosted with Pinkett Smith, or Willow Smith's mum, basically.
That performance looked so cool. It just showed how much of a badass not only Wicked Wisdom as a band are, but also how absolutely badass Willow has if she decided to move over to that style of music.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she's got her own mum as the inspiration, the basis of that's
Very
just mega.
To be fair as well, from a different angle of that, you'd hope that if you had a kid, that's what they'd want to do, and that's provide them with that experience. If I was there with a child, like I would take them on tour, and fucking that would be the life that we'd have.
Yeah.
Because even if they didn't want to be a musician, imagine having that growing up. I wish I'd had that growing up.
Oh god, I wish I did too.
Yeah, amazing.
This is the thing. Is that I think because she's been given the opportunity to be in the music industry anyway when she was a child with Rip Your Hair, so she was obviously encouraged to be a part of that scene. And obviously, I feel like Will and Jada are like really good parents. Like I feel like they're good parents. Like you see Will Smith on Instagram and stuff. I think they probably really positively encouraged Jada and her brother to do things with what they've got, the
Just
privilege that they do
generally
have.
be creative. Yeah,
100%. From this performance alone, she's shown that she is still more than capable of delivering something that is emotional, it's passionate, and it has legs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether it was continuing on the legacy of what Wicked Wisdom was when it was first around, or if she decided to carve her own kind of niche in the heavier kind of rock metal sound.
See, that would be what
I'd love to see this. So this is what I'm
In
interested in at the moment. Is that a TikTok, like in the past year or so, but especially in the past like 6 months, TikTok has created trends of music, and basically whatever is popular on TikTok right now is whatever's in the charts or whatever's on Spotify or streaming services of the thing to listen to. And that doesn't mean new music. That means like a generation of people discovering music without their parents' help, without influence. They're just discovering it from their peers. And it's like, I feel like this is like the perfect example of how like someone who has influence can we have an entire generation of young people who are just like completely open to listening to dad rock, who are just like, as in actual dad rock, as in dad rock from like our dad rock, not just like yeah. So like that's stupid.
No.
There was the album that came out that was dad rock, and it had things that we used to listen to as kids, and we're like, man, we're not even like parents, like as in like we're not even that age, like really, where we're like proper parents. But like that's why we get offended by dad rock, but the things that we would consider dad rock, like
I mean, realistically, I am 30. Most people by 30 have a kid, so it is dad rock.
But the thing is there is that it's things like Led Zeppelin and what I can't remember. What's a female artist that Miley Cyrus did a Midnight Sky? Stevie Nicks.
Yeah,
Stevie
so
Nicks,
Fleetwood Mac. Leonard
Mm-hmm.
Skinner, like the list goes on, like Kate Bush.
Yeah,
70s.
all of it.
We said this the other day as well. Another thing that just freaked me out about the 70s, when being a kid listening to music and the classics being 70s, now for kids these days the 90s is the 70s.
But even the noughties is the thing, even early noughties. And we look at this, we have kids who are listening to like My Chemical Romance's first 2 albums and being like, I say kids, this is really patronising because I know that some of our listeners are like 15 and like that you're like literally half our age. And that isn't to say we're patronising you by going, oh my god, you've not listened to My Chemical Romance's first 2 albums. Because that is like the equivalent to us of listening to something that was in 85 when we were your age. So it's that's the same thing. So not patronising, but it's amazing that music is coming around so fast. And I could go to a My Chem concert and be surrounded by 15 to 18-year-olds who love that stuff as much as me. And it's amazing. I love it.
They're being hit by it and being inspired by it the same way that you listening to the Smiths or the Cure like my mum and dad, I grew up listening to Queen and bands like that.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's classic rock. It's great. All of this music is great. It's all completely viable and it's totally relevant now, but it doesn't change the fact that it makes you feel dated. It makes you as a person feel dated and aged.
To back him up, I'll let you go, but to back him up, as someone who's not reached 30 yet, I am...
Bring that up.
Me. I am not. But it slightly breaks my heart when... So this is the thing, is like, if you're a younger listener, so if you're under the age of sort of like 22... there is a point when, as you're going through your 20s, that you suddenly get categorized as an actual full adult, and it's like you then become irrelevant. I am suddenly like to TikTok, as in like there's an entire thing where suddenly as a 27-year-old, if you're 18, you ain't gonna listen to what I have to say because I'm an actual full adult, because a 27 is really old compared to like a 22-year-old. And I think that you don't realise it happens. But I haven't had kids, so I haven't even had like a buffer to tell me that I should be older. So like I feel like there's some kind of thing in your 20s that you have, if you've not really done anything other than just like lived your life like I have. There's never been a point where I feel like I should be listening to dad rock or that my music is dad rock. But then there are kids that literally are going back to music that I listen to and they're like, yeah, a classic. And I'm like, oh my God.
An argument for the kids, man.
Go for it.
For the kids.
For the kids.
Only in the sense of my personal experience of like growing up listening to music, is obviously like I was into this stuff at the time, like For My Sins, Oasis. You know, for the time, I'm a horrible man for it. You know,
you did listen to Blair as well, though.
But I had Blair, I had Hard Life, you know, but then found sort of maturity with like System and Slipknot and yada yada yada. After about 2002, where I'm talking I'm about 18 by that point, I went straight back.
All right.
You know, because it's just nothing related to me at that point at 18. And maybe it is because it was like, you're legal. I just remember going out and being like, right, you're legally allowed to be in pub now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not as good now.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be.
It quickly loses.
And I just sort of, musically, I just went straight back and was like,
do you know,
I find all the old pitch shifter stuff.
Do you know, I completely sympathise with you, because I remember there's been plenty of nights. I remember, but like when I was at college, when I was at uni, and I'd go out with my more mainstream quote unquote mates, and we'd go to the local nightclub, and it'd be a rock nightclub, it'd be a rock night or whatever. They'd be on the main dance floor, and at the time there'd be things like the Kaiser Chiefs and stuff. Again, this is more locally because it's the UK, but these were like the more modern bands and stuff, and you know, I like stuff like the Arctic Monkeys when they came out, because obviously they were doing something a bit more interesting, a bit more different. But the more generic sounding chart stuff, I saw through it. It became super transparent, and I was in the side room or the upstairs room or the whatever the alternative room, quote unquote, was, that was either playing the outside of mainstream stuff at the time or golden oldies. So it was stuff from the 80s, stuff from the 90s, and I was like, oh my God, this music is amazing that I'd never even heard of before. Absolutely. And the next thing I know, even though I'm a rock guy, I'm a metal guy, I was absolutely losing my mind to like early Prodigy stuff and like you say, Pitch Shifter and Massive Attack and all these old school like 90s stuff that we technically grew up with, but I was far too young to appreciate compared to this chart rock stuff that just didn't hit the same. But then you're begging to question, well, is that because the way that we grew up with music that, I mean, technically was
that then saturation?
Yeah, and then you've got things like Top of the Pops to consider as well, and like because
we were lucky with that, I think,
because of where everybody consumes music nowadays.
I was literally going to say, I think with regards to what we were saying to start this off, like calling music whatever age before as dad rock, granddad rock, it doesn't matter anyway. If it's getting listened to, it benefits us as people and as musicians. Because now the way music's digested, it's not you only listen to what's around at the times, and if you're like us, you maybe backtrack or you've been presented with a different thing as a kid. But now you just have all the music in the world at your fingertips. So people go and look and hear things that are like 80 years old or like brand new in the same playlist. Do you know what I mean? So I see it as a good thing, and also when you get to 30, you just don't give a fuck anyway. It's great.
That's true. I walk into the shop to get a drink because I'm out and about on the day. They walk, right, I've got 4 fridges in front of me. They're full of all different drinks.
Which one's a beer in?
Where do I start?
You're right, you are absolutely.
And so to do that, in order to really kind of discover more about yourself and to potentially explore other avenues of sounds and things that you might potentially be aware of, you might decide, okay, I'm in the mood for something fruity today. Hypothetically, this is just the allegory for walking into a shop and getting a drink. So you go, right, so I'm not going to get water, I'm not going to get milk, I'm not going to get a milkshake, or like these things. I'm going to go
get cider.
I'm going to go to the
can of kestrel with drum bass. That's
I'm going to get the fruity, go to the fruity section, but then what that allows you is to potentially, depending on how willing you are to explore new possibilities, you might take a risk and you might say, I'm going to try this raspberry drink that I've never had before, and that might become your new favourite drink. But you've got to be willing to take the risk, and it's the same in a transaction as simple as just going to a shop and getting a drink. It can also apply to movies, to music, to art, to anything that we consume on social media, because we are bombarded with advertisements for new brand spanking things that come out all the time. Oh my, have you seen this new thing?
I have a really good analogy for how like the charts and like how a lot of people base their taste around chart music. And it's like going to a shop and wanting a drink, and then all the advertisers of the drinks are just pouring the drink down your mouth. And you're like, okay, no, I like that one. As in the other indie artists who are on the shelf waiting patiently, doing the right thing, don't even get a chance because you taste that Capri Sun with the bright packaging that's already been poured in your mouth. And you're like, oh, that tastes very nice actually. I'll just go that way if that's all right, because that's easier. That's the choice.
Capri Sun is good though.
I do like Capri Sun, yeah.
Absolutely. It's...
What's the one that you used to be able to freeze?
Freeze pop.
Yeah. Well, they weren't drinks, were they?
Panda
Panda
Pop.
Pop.
Well. The one Panda Pop you could freeze, that was good.
Science.
Good analogy there.
That's a great analogy. I feel like, to be fair, this is the interesting thing though, because you were talking about how you would go to a club and listen to like different music and that kind of thing. I feel like, do you know when you were all like, oh, you're all millennials, and I was like, I'm a millennial, which is like essentially like some people see that as like garbage terminology for people. It's just like to fit yourself into a category, but it really shows when you talk about music, because my experience of digesting new music and finding new music is not through my own family. I listen to Queen, I listen to Pink Floyd, I listen to everything that my dad and my mum used to put on for me via records and stuff. And I loved them. But as a teenager, that's the uncoolest stuff to listen to, really. Like, as in, I was one of those teenagers that was, like, rebellious against my parents. So anything they used to listen to wasn't cool. And I remember kids in school used to love Led Zeppelin and everything like that. And I was like, nah, man, that's dead rock. Screw that.
It becomes cool at 22.
It does, that's what I mean. It does become cool, and I do now like that. But as a teenager, growing up, and that is the key point where you learn what music you like, and you really sit into a genre. And it defines, if you're a music person, it defines what you wear, what your opinions are, who you hang out with. It can be really impactful. But I was of a generation of the LimeWire downloading days plus social media influence. So I was a cross between you were? Naughty what? Download.
We all did it. We all did it, Eddie. Don't you?
Please.
I never.
How dare they?
Don't illegally download music, but I used to go. But the other thing as well, so I used to be on. So basically, I got Spotify as soon as it came out. I was like, when I was going to uni, I was like, what's this new thing that I can listen to everything I want to on at once? I was one of the first subscribers that I know of Spotify, because that was how I used to get music. And I was an iPod generation. So the iPod generation downloaded or bought their music through iTunes, or got their CDs from the shop, uploaded them to your computer.
Again, final thing from me, I think, really. Has anybody seen the rehash of MySpace called Space Hey, I think it is? And sort of basically they tried to remake MySpace, and there's a student of ours that told me about it the other day. I was like, that's amazing.
MySpace was
people have got
fantastic.
so angry with Facebook and the way, because why did we all change to Facebook?
I just want to be pure.
This is the interesting thing. Yes. This is the interesting thing about a younger generation of people, which I really admire, that I feel like my generation of people, which is different to your guys, really.
Yeah,
we're old as fuck.
Is that my generation was very much trend, new trend because of social media. The new generation of TikTokers they don't use Facebook. Like, I work in social media, and if you want to target a young audience or your audience is younger, do not use Facebook. It's garbage. So you go to things like TikTok and Instagram, and even Instagram's becoming too old. Yeah. So we need a new thing. And what are our younger generation more interested in? Nostalgia, going back to what our lot used to use. So I'm not surprised that MySpace is but MySpace was fantastic for creatives, for musicians, all of that. It was you could go and code your own profile. You could go and create this.
There was nothing better than meeting somebody like at a gig or something like that, and then going to their page, just like them or friend them or whatever it was, and the song would play like, this song's amazing, I've never heard this before.
Being able to embed a song so that when you loaded their profile, the song played.
Forceful.
This guy was sick at that club last night. I really had a good chat with him, and then also electro music that I didn't like before.
Yeah,
we are now coming as I'm started writing for magazines for music, and I've started getting really, really into, since working with you guys and doing getting really into the nitty gritty of how to promote music and stuff, how to get new music out there. It's fascinating, and there's definitely a new generation of, I say bedroom artists, but it's essentially DIY artists. No one needs to go and pay $2,000 to go record a few tracks in a studio anymore. You can do it all at home if you wanted to, and you can upload. I know that not SoundCloud. Is it SoundCloud? SoundCloud.
What about it?
To upload music to.
You can upload stuff to SoundCloud.
Things like that. So you can upload your music
and BandLab. And
all this. You can upload your new music. But wasn't MySpace one of the best platforms for new and unknown artists? And I feel like that is now, because of DIY artists, we're going to find a new social media, because of TikTok, that revolves around sounds and music. We're going to see an entire evolution of social media that literally is revolved around creativity, finding out new interests in music. And
just to touch on what you just said as well, just to not piss anybody off that's listening that is a producer and spends a lot of money on, or has people spend a lot of money. It is fine, but there is a need for that still, and
because there is a level of expertise that they can provide, and a level of
beyond
using certain
new art.
equipment. No, absolutely,
I'm talking to our listeners, people who
take us for example. Everything we've done is in house, and it's literally to the best of my ability and your abilities, but mastering and production wise. But I know for a fact, if we went properly to a studio and spent $2,000 a track on it, it would be better.
Of course it would be. Of course it would be.
Well, just to cover the backs of those guys that spent years doing a whole other thing.
I would to defend to absolutely and agree. I think the point that I'm trying to make is that music doesn't, unless you're literally got network in high places, you don't start at that level. So what I'm saying is the reason why artists become big and get a following is pure grassroots, and that's generally how the best music comes out of pure grassroots. And what I'm saying is TikTok's given us an entire generation of artists, and one of my favourite artists right now feels like one of those people, and I personally prefer that.
How we see recording studio now is it's almost like a holiday.
Yeah, it's a treat.
It's like an absolute treat, because we can do it all in house, but it would be nice to go to a studio, nice and polished, massive amount of gear that you can just use, nice live rooms. Another guy who's just as smart, if not smarter than you, at doing all the production and everything like that, and ideas and all that stuff. And it's just the experience of it, even going to another country to do it as well.
Yeah, really cool.
I think that's going to be a thing in the future where everyone's going to really record at home or get mastered off their own back or whatever. But then they're going to, like you said, have the money to do it and treat that as a treat basically.
Yeah.
Because we want to do that.
My own experience of recording music is essentially in a bedroom. So I would love to go to a studio and have a big grand a carpet on the floor and everyone's playing instruments at the same time. Great stuff, but it's not accessible for the stuff. But it will be if it goes that far. But it's nice to know that there are platforms growing for people to be able to
Truth.
Absolutely. Big last point just on MySpace, but you want to talk about absolute nostalgia hit. Clicking on a band's profile, not a personal profile, a band's profile that was set up as a music profile, and having a sampler, a media player embedded in their profile. Oh, here's like their top 4 songs.
Handpicked by the band.
Yeah, handpicked by the band, and it was usually their own uploads because at the time they were usually unsigned or something like that.
And if you found a band that no one else knew about and they were a mint, you were the coolest guy.
This is the thing. If you think about what you can do on social media right now, for those who haven't experienced MySpace, imagine you could set up essentially a Facebook-style profile where you can post what you want, post all the images and videos that you want. Like, it's an entirely flexible social media platform. But then imagine embedding a Spotify profile into that, where if someone discovered you, they can literally get your personal piece together experience of your band. It's essentially the perfect press release was a MySpace. Like, it was amazing. And I hope to God it comes back from musicians.
The flexibility of it as well meant that everybody from our generation learned to some degree how to code in HTML or CSS.
Yeah, I know how to code.
Because everybody had the same generic profile, but it gave you access to the code.
Kids are learning computer science right now.
Literally.
Imagine how great MySpace would be.
How much more amazing it would be now. It's like high-speed internet.
It's pretty good as well.
Get me on the back of a WordPress website now. I'm like, boy, can do it.
So the Ray Charles of it shit.
So if you want to listen to Willow Smith's track, it is called it's called Transparent Soul, and it features Travis Barker.
We didn't even speak about Willow's actual new track.
We were gonna, but it's past time now. But yeah, if you want to listen to the new track by Willow Smith, it's not a metal track, but it's fun and interesting, and we might talk about it again in the future. But it's called Transparent Soul, featuring Travis Barker.
It's a pretty cool track.
That cool drummer that was in a band, maybe. No one knows.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Well, he is bringing about, not to get into this topic, but he's bringing about the new pop punk era.
Good. Is he?
Well, yeah, he works with Machine Gun Kelly.
No, you're right, he is.
Yeah.
He is.
So, this new podcast format means that we're going to have this little segment at the end, or at least at some point in the podcast, we're going to talk about songs that we have liked recently. And they might be old songs, new songs, current songs, just released songs, or just songs on artists that we've been listening to.
Quick thing for it. This is the song of the week.
Oh my God, that was gorgeous.
Oh,
there you go.
That's the song of the week.
Just do that each time.
That is the song of the week.
Yeah. There you go. Done. End podcast. Okay, so we've all brought a track that we're listening to at the moment that we enjoy.
Yeah.
So, Eddie, would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So mine is by a band called Vast. And it's a mid to late 90s, early 2000s sort of alternative rock band, similar to like Nine Inch Nails. But I like the artist specifically because I first heard a song from him. It's John Crosby, but as a band, he's main songwriter in all of the stuff he's done. I heard a song from them first in Angel, which is a spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I went and found it and then basically did a deep dive, and one of my favourite albums is their self-titled album, Visual Audio Century Theatre. Yeah.
Yes.
But why I like this guy a lot is because he was doing what I did from the same age. So when he was 13, he basically recorded to a drum machine on an 8-track with his guitar. And I just love all of his songs, they're all amazing. So the song to listen to is Dirty Hole by Vast.
You show me that. And I really enjoyed it.
It's a fucking tune.
Yeah,
show
really
me your
good.
dirty hole.
Not that.
Me, so my song of the week is Bobby Starchild's remix of All That I Need of Counting Coins' original song. But it's like a big remix, big gabba thing, and I love my bit Bobby, local lad. He's in Leeds. He was in one of my first bands, Alpine Jam. And it's just nuts. I'm really into my dance music generally, but he brought this to me. He's always been the guy that was like brought the fresh, new, interesting stuff to me, and he's just continued to do that, producing this really, really.
It's mad.
It's a big
mad,
listen.
like
it's a lot.
Gabba apparently is the thing. My favourite thing about it was on the local radio station recently, like literally Sunday just gone, and our good friend Alan Raw just sounded so perplexed. I was like, this is my favourite thing.
So you explained that he didn't know if he liked it or not.
Like, I love it, but I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, you've only just played it to us, and I was like, I don't really get what you mean. Just played it to us, and I was like, exactly exactly what Alan Moore means there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Counting coins as well as a lot
Counting coins, but yeah, Bobby's the guitar player in Counting Coins.
I would say,
as
okay.
well. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Lovely.
Cool. So I was doing a little bit of a deep dive with one of our students, and then lo and behold, the next day, Hiatus Kaiyote dropped a new single. It's about time. Just over 5 years since the last album. They've just dropped a new single, Red Room. Hiatus Kaiyote, absolutely fantastic neo soul kind of jazz in the vein of like Snarky Puppy, but a little bit more lo-fi, female fronted guitarist. Just absolutely loving their sound, loving their vibes. New track, Red Room. Check it out. Absolutely into it. Oh yeah.
To add to this eclectic group of songs, my track is by an artist called Noga Erez, and she is an Israeli indie artist, and she's one of the few Israeli indie artists that have been able to sort of like reach quite a lot of fame, mainly through TikTok. It's where I discovered her live sessions. And she is a producer, a rapper, and a singer. Some may say pop, but I would say more like...
You can't really...
It's like if Billie Eilish was an indie artist, I would say that. As in, like, that's probably my best explanation. But
There's
if you
a bit
like...
of Motown and a bit of rap.
Yeah, lots of things.
Loads of stuff.
And when I was listening to Noga Erez's back catalogue, there's a lot of like dance. There's a lot of different influences that they have. But the recent album that's going to come out soon, if it's not alright already, she's been doing a lot of single releases and stuff. And all of them are fantastic, and I'm so excited for the album. But my song that I'm going to recommend is going to be... It's called End of the Road, and I would recommend going on YouTube and listening to End of the Road live version of it, because she has her entire band around her, and it is fantastic. And she does a bit of rap, bit of singing. It's a really good introduction into the song and her sound, and I'd recommend hitting Spotify and just checking out all of her most popular tracks, because she is legit going to be a massive star.
I second that massively.
She's fantastic. As soon as I'm at a house party, if I was allowed a house party, I would put it on. But yeah.
Sweet. Cool.
Vibes.
And what we're going to be doing with these tracks, so we've introduced 4 tracks there. There will be in the very near future a playlist that's going to go on Spotify. We don't have a name yet. We want to get a few tracks together before we actually make it. But every single track that we recommend is going to be up on this playlist in the very near future, so you can actually listen to all of them together. A very eclectic taste of everything that we like. And if you have any recommendations for us to listen to for the future, then please do email us at genetherapypod@gmail.com. Boop, boop. And we will listen to things. Remember to hit us up on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram is Navier Gene. Twitter doesn't have a name yet.
Find
out next time. But Twitter will be something like Gene Therapy Podcast. Just search it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this new format of Gene Therapy. It was a blast. I very much enjoyed it myself. I hope you all guys had fun. Sorry, I'm just blocking your face.
I like it.
This is cool.
I like no lag.
No lag, yeah.
I like tiki glasses.
Yay!
Strong
Cocktails.
Long Island iced teas.
Strong Island iced teas.
But thank you very much for all tuning in, and remember to rate, review and subscribe to any of our digital platforms that we're on, including YouTube and all of the podcast platforms that you can listen to us on. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Woo!
Thanks, everyone.
In a bit.
To
Peace
season
and
2.
love.
Season 2. Season 2. Season 2. Season. A little bit of harmony. Season 2. No, that went whack. I was going to do the note. It started.
3, 2, 1.
Season 2.
Season 2.
Season 2.
You all changed now. Literally all you changed now.
How dare you?
Goodbye.
Bye.
Peace.